Hi, everybody. Welcome to Eating Peace this week. It's Grace Bell here. I'm so excited because I'm getting ready for my annual Eating Peace retreat, which is a deep immersion in person here in Seattle, in the area where I live, really minutes from my house, from my little cottage here. And I know that we're going to be discovering and diving in and exploring very deeply some of the thoughts that all of us have experienced when it comes to food and eating, and slowing it down, which can be so powerful when you do in a group and you hold still. One thing that came up today in the Eating Peace inquiry call that was underway was really sitting with this moment when you're at the end of a meal. Let's say you're finished eating, or you're in a state, maybe you haven't even eaten recently, but you are in a state where you are not hungry at the moment. So no food is required. It's not necessary, but here comes the thought of eating. Now you might be far, far away from any food, and the food that comes through your mind somehow is born. You don't even know how. It's just that it comes to you, right? There it is, it appears. Sometimes we're in environments where the reason we begin to think about a certain kind of food is because we walk into a room and there it is. You know, it's all over the table, or somebody left the leftovers, or we're in the kitchen and it's on the counter, or there's the refrigerator and it's the door standing open and we can see the food. But very interesting to notice that it doesn't always matter if the food is right around us. So that can be sort of a trigger. You notice that triggers happen from the environment. You know, you go around the corner and there's that place that you always get that binge food at that particular place, right? So another kind, the first one that I mentioned, is when a thought just comes to you and you don't even really know why. It just seems to appear. You, of course, can explore a little further why and wonder about it. How interesting that this thought about eating a certain food that I know doesn't really work well for me and makes me feel kind of sick has just come to me. Plus, I'm not even hungry. So this is not so much the thing that I want to explore to you today about not eating something and making sure you never, ever, ever take a bite. I love tasting everything. It's just the way it seems to work well for me. I find out if I like things or not still. And some things I still realize I used to think that I love them. I have a little taste and they just, yep, it's true. It's still not like always what I used to think it was. It just doesn't measure up. And I remember when I once had this huge, like store-bought cakes, for example. I almost don't even have to bother tasting them anymore. They're just not really satisfying or interesting. They look really good, but that's about it. It kind of falls flat. That's a known. But, so it can be interesting to test out things that you think are so good and really wonder with inquiry, do I actually really like this? If I sat with and I didn't have a right or wrong, good or bad, evil, good on this food, if I just didn't know, if I was an alien from another planet and I erased all those rules and ideas about food and eating, and I just got to sit here with me and the food and my body and my hunger level and taste it and see if I like it with no emergency or scarcity or freaking out, do I actually like it? It's really interesting to find out those things we think we want so much aren't really all that great. And I'm not talking about only food. It's very interesting to see, do I really, really like that? Do I really want it? Do I want all of it? I don't know. Maybe it's not so interesting as I thought it was when I slow it down and wonder. But today, I thought we would just do a little inquiry on this moment when you are not hungry. So food for fuel is not required. And you have an idea about eating something. And the thought, one of the thoughts that can appear is, I shouldn't be thinking this. I shouldn't want that so much. That food shouldn't trigger me so wildly. So notice this interesting thing that happens when you have that kind of thought. Like, oh my God, there it is. Must brace myself against this substance in the world or this activity or this idea. this thing that's occurred to me. I must fight it. I must be against it. I must control it. I must use my will, muster everything to resist. All right, let's take a look at that using the 4 questions, that sort of inquiry. First question, is that true? Oh my gosh, it can seem yes. Can you absolutely know it's true? You might say yes again. Upon reflection, many people say yes, it's absolutely true that I need to control or resist or prevent or block or do something, put on the brakes to this urge or craving or desire or reaching for the thing that I think I want. Yeah, I need to do that. I need to resist it. That's okay. It's okay if you have yes and a yes. There's never a requirement to answer no. And you may notice your answer is no, but it doesn't matter. You find your honest answer. Today, when people were doing the work, the person speaking out loud said yes, yes. I need to learn to control this, resist it, stop it. How do you react, though? Notice that third question. How do you react when you believe, I need to control this, I need to fight it? Resistance. We must have the resistance. Let's fight it. Take up your arms. Do your tools, work at it. I have felt this way about so many things in life, not just cravings or an urge. It's like fear, panic, confrontation, worry, anger, anxiety, that urge or effort to make sure something doesn't happen and doesn't occur. Bad things. I could put a big list. Bad things that happen in life. I need to control my life or control the outcome or do something to make it so it doesn't happen. I even need to work on my thoughts so that I don't have bad thoughts that lead to bad behavior. It's a really hard control diet. It's very, very difficult. Diets are difficult. Diets can be hard to manage in that kind of sense of intense control. If you feel free within a certain form of diet or food plan or whatever, it's a completely different story. That's not what I'm talking about. It's just your sense of being imposed on and trapped and stuck and feeling resentful about it. So who would you be without this thought? I mean, notice that when you have the thought, I need to resist something, I have this urge or this craving, I need to control it and kill it and smash it. There's a fight and an argument and a tension. You can feel it in the body. And plus your attitude towards that craving or urge is extremely negative. Here it is again. You might even feel despairing about yourself. Why haven't I learned this by now? I should be able to stop doing this. Well, question 4, who would you be without that story? Who would you be without the thought that seems like it's so true, right? That I should be able to control those urges and cravings. I should stop them. I should work on them. I should pound them. I should suppress them, be against them. Who would I be without that thought? That they shouldn't exist. It's really interesting. I mean, I can look back on my decade of pain and agony about food and extreme imbalance and anything but eating peace. It was like eating war constantly, battles all the time, never felt right in my head. And say, yeah, that would have been nice to have that be 1 year, not 10 or 0 or, my alternate life plan. But who knows, it needed to last as long as it lasted, and it needed to be there as long as it was. And it wasn't there 24 hours a day, I may point out, because that mind will make it like it was constant and incessant. And I can remember the feeling of pain, but I know it wasn't. I slept, I did other things, I had friends, I had a job. There was other things besides only food and eating, even though when I remember that time, it seems like that was such a terrible phenomena that was occurring. But who would I be without the belief I needed to control those urges? It's pretty stunning. What if they're here with a message, something important that's trying to break through and speak to you? They sure were for me. I had very imbalanced thinking. And as a result, my food and eating was extremely imbalanced and not peaceful at all. And I really needed to see and become much more aware what was going on in my whole entire belief system, definitely not just food. It was a symbol of what was going on everywhere. And to relax it and understand it, make peace with it, and those thoughts that I had was incredible. It made all the difference in the world. It changed the course of my life and the way I saw life. It was a growing up experience. And so if we turn that around, I do not need to control my urges. That's not necessarily the answer. Control, fighting, war. I need to relax with my urges. I don't need to control them. They aren't controlling me. You could even turn it around again to say I need to control my thinking, but that's probably not even true. I mean, have you ever tried to control your thinking? Like, don't think about whatever it is, fill in the blank, and you think about it and panic or get afraid. So even that, a sense of just allowing things to be there, to exist, to be as they are, quite a different, really stunningly different, astonishing to let something wild and chaotic be in the presence of ourselves. Notice what's more vast and bigger than those urgent thoughts, and that they totally change. I mean, have you ever had a thought with the gas pedal to the floor, about some kind of food at the top 150 miles per hour and stay that way? Something happens. Something always happens. So you could just give it an extra minute before thinking, oh my God, here comes this urge and this desire and this reaching and this craving. And the only way to make it stop is to eat the thing. That may not be the only way to make it stop. Who would I be without that story? Forcing anything or control? What if I just ride it through? Could I sit still a little bit? Or could I pace or punch the air? If I feel really nervous, or start jumping up and down, shaking. Shaking is a really good exercise for lots of energy coursing through the body. So who would I be if I turned that around? No control is required. There may be another way that I haven't seen. I remember watching for the first time, instead of feeling like some sort of overwhelming craving is coming over me like a wave crashing and I'm going into a trance state of eating to calm that thing down, realizing that there is an observer here all the time watching the entire show. And it's very accepting, very forgiving, very open, very relaxed. It doesn't care in a sort of a detached way what you actually do. It loves you anyway. And that's always here with us. I mean, it's been with us our whole entire lives. There's some peace that's like that inside. And I mean P-I-E-C-E and P-E-A-C-E. The peace that's present no matter what's going on. Even if we're screaming at ourselves that we made a stupid mistake again, and look at you, and you can never figure out these cravings, and look how compulsive you are. Even if a voice is saying that, you're still here, and you're still present, and you're still getting up on another morning and trying again, and alive, no matter how despaired or disappointed you feel. So trying a different way instead of all that effort and control and tightness and restriction is just so incredibly powerful. Just to see if you can even, kind of write it out a little bit, or just leave the room and walk around the block without even an idea that it's fundamentally critical. You're a failure if you give in and you eat something. I also remember, and I want to share this today just as we wrap up this inquiry, that I remembered learning long ago, and all the millions of therapists that I saw, I don't know, there's probably millions, is a little over exaggerated, but it's probably 15 different people I went to off and on for 15 years, all around like, how do I stop this terrible craving and urge? And it's so horrible. But one had this fabulous tool, and they all kind of built a system of tools and awareness and learning that were really quite remarkable over time. It was wonderful, each and every one. This one therapist said, you know, when you feel sort of like something's overwhelming you and it's the one in charge, not you as a, peaceful, in a peaceful place, being settled with it, like that wave that comes over that puts you in a trance of eating. You could go in to the most exquisite restaurant, order the most fabulous thing you're not supposed to be eating from the menu, let's say some kind of dessert. Sit down with it before you as they bring you this dessert. Take one bite slowly, savor it, so marvelous, and then one more bite, savoring it again, put your fork down, pay the bill, and leave. I remember them making that suggestion. It was like, what? Take 2 bites of something I'm craving and leave? Leave it on the plate? But what a wonderful proposal. Just suggesting that this can be done and that this is possible. And there's sort of a hilarity. It was like a joyful feeling. And I was able to do that. I was able to try that. Wow, if there's something that seems to be calling my name, screaming in my head, or urgent craving, and then in all my resistance with the brakes on going down the hill, just screeching brakes, I wind up just collapsing to the other side and consuming everything from this end of the house to the other, or through the city, driving and finding all of it, and now I'm a terrible person. Instead, it was like some way middle way, way toned down, just going ahead and sampling it. And it was back to that wonderful idea of just seeing if I really, really want it. Is this really satisfying? Is that really what I wanted? And just the joy of being able to be with that and knowing I could always come back to it later if I really wanted to. That worked for me. It doesn't mean, you may be craving something that is actually poisonous to you, or you really shouldn't be eating ever at all because you're very allergic. That's different. So you make this work for you in whatever way is appropriate and fitting and calming. But I just love that sense of peace can work with you in sort of a middle way. We don't have to be all extreme. I need to be the one in control, or my thoughts are controlling me. How about we're dancing together, and there is a sense of who you are in that empty, vast place that is just so open and so infinite and so wonderful, that's greater than anything, certainly greater than any compulsive behavior or failure or success. All right. Take good care. Let me know how it goes.